Good day, cadet, and you are welcome to the lesson on the Fire Control Radar, FCR, and the deployment of the semi-active radar homing air-to-air missiles, SARH. The FCR consists of an onboard active radar and digital radar data processing computer. In conjunction with the guided munitions, it enables effective engagement of aerial targets in all weather conditions, day and night, whether against ground clutter or in clear skies, at short to medium ranges. In this lesson, we have two R-27ER SAR missiles mounted on the aircraft's inner pylons and unlimited ammo for training purposes. The Mig-29 aircraft is equipped with a Unified Indication System, UIS, which integrates targeting, flight, navigation, and situational awareness data across displays. The two primary displays are the head-up display, HUD, and the auxiliary head-down display, HDD. To display radar imagery and data via the UIS, the weapon control system must be switched from nav to radar mode. Switch the WCS mode selector knob to RAD position, and we'll move on. To enable radar illumination. In radar mode, the HUD presents a top-down view of the airspace ahead of the aircraft's nose. When an airborne target is detected, its symbol appears on the HUD as a single target mark. The lower the symbol appears on the glass screen of the HUD, the closer the target is. Targets that respond to identification friend or four IFF queries, i.e. friendly aircraft, are indicated by double marks on the HUD. The IFF interrogation cycle consists of 10.5 seconds of active querying, followed by a 3.5 second pause. In some cases, identification may be delayed due to various factors. Radar can track friendly aircraft, however, locking onto them is only possible when authorized by setting the Friend for Lock switch on the lower weapon panel to the friend position. Also, be advised that if the weapon control system, WCS, mode is set to other than radar, the target identification is not available. Press spacebar to continue. On the left side of the HUD, the RL index indicates that the radar is active and illuminated. Next to the index, a vertical line, a range scale is displayed, with its maximum value determined by the position of the radar mode selector. Head-on, scale up to 75 nautical miles. Pursuit, P, scale up to 25 nautical miles. Auto, scale up to 15 nautical miles. The head-on mode is designed to detect approaching targets at distances from 5 to 150 kilometers. A blind zone exists between 0 and 5 kilometers, in which the targets cannot be detected. The pursuit mode, P, is used to engage retreating targets in the rear hemisphere. Tracking and lock-on may be degraded or impossible against targets flying at speeds close to the aircraft zone. In auto mode, the system automatically switches between head-on and pursuit modes, combining their capabilities. Press space to continue. The radar operates on a pulse Doppler principle with a high to medium pulse repetition frequency corresponding to the radar mode selected. Due to the nature of Doppler-based target detection, the radar does not support all aspect tracking. Detection ranges vary depending on the target's aspect angle. Maximum detection and lock-on ranges are achieved when engaging targets on head-on flight path. As the target's aspect approaches forequarters, that is perpendicular to the aircraft, detection becomes unreliable or impossible in all fire control radar operating modes. These positions are referred as blind side aspects or notches on the angular detection diagram, where radar returns are rejected by Doppler filters. Depending on the tactical air situation, false target returns may appear on the HUD at various ranges and azimuths, complicating detection and locking. Press spacebar to continue. Please note the horizontal line along the lower edge of the HUD glass. This line serves as a visual cue to the radar's azimuthal detection zone. The pilot can control this zone using the zone switch, moving it left or right through the center position. Engage the switch and try to scan the airspace to the left and right of the center. Once complete, return the switch to the center zone. The head-down display HDD, a CRT-type monitor located below and to the right of the HUD, functions as a backup repeater. While generally mirroring HUD data, the HDD includes subtle differences. Most notably, it displays index markings 1, 2, 3, 4, indicating the current radar antenna scanline position during the sweep button. Press the space bar to continue. The right vertical line on the head-down display includes a triangular horizon index and a marker, indicating the radar antenna's relative elevation. Antenna elevation is determined by the position of the target elevation, delta H selector knob. The pilot sets this value based on the roughly estimated altitude difference between the target position and own aircraft, measured in kilometers. Let's try to detect a target at 10 nautical miles range, flying 6 kilometers beneath our aircraft. First, set the delta H selector knob to the -6 kilometers position. Second, once the delta H parameter is set, adjust the scan distance by moving the target designation control HUD TDC downward to align with the 10 nautical miles marking on the range scale. Use HOTOS or default keyboard buttons for TDC vertical movements. Semicolon HUD upward, dot HUD downward. Once the radar detects the target, the automatic identification friend or foe process begins. At that moment, the green Mode 1 light illuminates on an annunciator panel. Within a few seconds, the target is recognized as friendly, and its symbol on the HUD changes to a dual row mark. As we said, by default, locking onto friendly aircraft is disabled. However, for the training purposes, we'll override this restriction. To do so, please move the lock mode switch from fire to friend position. Place DTC over the friendly target symbol, then depress the lock-on button on the throttle grip, enter, for 2-3 seconds. Use the following buttons to have a full TDC control. Semicolon, HUD upward, dot, hard downward, comma, hard left, slash, hard right. Successful lock-on is indicated by the appearance of the A, attack symbol, along the left sides of the HUD and HDD. The display layouts shift from searching mode to tracking mode. Since the target was previously recognized as friendly, the F symbol also flashes at the top of both screens. The small diamond-shaped caret on the HUD represents the current radar antenna spatial position relative to the boreside axis. To maintain uninterrupted target illumination for the launched missile, avoid maneuvering the aircraft so that the caret moves outside the HUD indication limits. The estimated target aspect and flight direction are shown graphically by the arrow extending from the bottom of the range scale. An upward pointing arrow indicates that our aircraft is attacking the target from behind. Press the space bar to continue. The range scale features 3 dynamic range carets, arranged from top to bottom as follows. Max launch range against non-maneuvering target. Max no escape range against a maneuvering target. Min launch range. The current effective target range is indicated by the contoured arrow brushing with scale from the right. Press space bar to continue. The missile type is displayed in the lower right corner of the HUD, while ready-state weapon stores are shown along the bottom edge. Just before launch authorization, the HUD displays an L loft symbol along the left edge of the screen. At the same time, the aiming ring shifts abruptly upward or downward, effectively showing the desired pitch maneuver direction prior to firing. To achieve optimal launch conditions, the pilot must align the center cross of own aircraft symbol with the aiming ring. Note, for best tracking, reset the antenna elevation delta H to 0 once a stable log is achieved. In this case, the aiming ring will show the direction the pilot should follow in order to get onto the target's altitude. Switch the delta H selector to the 0 position. Get ready to take aircraft controls. Press the space bar and I will unpause the lesson. You have the controls. Steer the aircraft to align crosshairs with the aiming ring. This action boresides the aircraft to the target's lead point. Pursue the target aggressively, especially if attacking in rear aspect engagements. Maintain a closure rate of at least 150 km per hour. Otherwise, radar lock may be lost. symbol displayed. Maneuver dynamically and have crosshairs aligned with the aiming circle. When the LA symbols appear below the crosshairs, the launch authorization conditions have been met. This means that the target is within the permitted missile launch range and angular constraints. In a case you need to override constraints and launch regardless, switch Prepare selector from auto to manual. When the effective range to target drops below minimum launch range threshold, the No LA warning appears on the screens. When this occurs, break off immediately and reposition yourself. Cancel the lock using Break Lock button. Right Alt plus Backspace. Okay. Restore the lock selector position by switching it from friend back to fire position. Now we prepare to search and simultaneously track multiple aerial targets. The pilot uses track while scan radar mode of operation. In this mode, the radar can track up to 10 targets with continuous determination of their angular coordinates, range and closing speed. So, turn on the TWF FHS mode. Track while scan, TWS mode, maintains track on multiple targets while continuing search. The highest priority, HP target, is assigned automatically, based primarily on range and closure rate. The TDC box is applied to the HP target by default. In most cases, the nearest target is designated as the highest priority. By delaying transition to single target track, STT, until the last moment, TWS conceals the fact that the target is being acquired. Normally, the auto-lock occurs at ranges corresponding to the maximum effective ranges of the basic R-27R missile. Important to know that with the extended range R-27ER variant, manual locking may be attempted at ranges up to 1.5 times greater. Press the spacebar to continue. Currently, there are 5 aerial targets flying at 9,500 feet over the vast areas of the Krasnodar water reservoir. Make sure that waypoint 1 is selected on the nav panel. Fly along the flight path to this navigation point using indications on the HSI, while leaving the hard indication in radar mode. Keep the airspeed around 450 knots. Scan the airspace in TWS mode and monitor for automatic TDC box placement over the HP target symbol. The moment the TDC box expands in size 1.5 times signifies the moment the system has initiated the track on the target. When the HP target is designated, it remains regardless of changes in the threat environment. To reinitiate target prioritization, press the brake lock, right alt plus backspace button on the stick. This triggers a new pass to select the new HP threat with updated conditions. The same procedure applies in case of unintentional loss of target selection. To reinitiate prioritization and relocking, press the brake lock button, right alt plus backspace. Alternatively, manual designation can be performed by depressing the TDC HUD, keyboard L button, and slewing the TDC box over the desired target symbol. Once the box expands, release the HUD. If the target lies within the missile's maximum range, it will be designated automatically. You can forcibly designate the target by pressing the lock-on button on the throttle grip, keyboard Enter button. Once the target is designated, wait for the LA, Launch Authorized queue, to appear. Fire the missile by holding right alt plus space until launch is executed.
Пуск разрешен.
Target destroyed. Okay, the next radar mode covered here is close combat. Switch the radar mode selector to the next position, close combat. Generally speaking, the vertical scan zone in close combat mode is tall enough to cover approximately 2 heights of the hard glass, offering generous coverage for high-angle engagements. In this mode, the following procedure is used to lock on the nearby targets. Steer the aircraft to place the target within the vertical scan zone. Depress the lock-on button, enter, for 2-3 seconds to have the target locked. Get it? If you clearly got the procedure, follow to the waypoint 1, locate one of the targets, and initiate lock-on. Locking parameters in this mode. Maximum lock range, 10 kilometers. Minimum lock range, 450 meters.
Разрешен.
Keep the tiny target within the front glass metal frame. This will prevent the lock break. Once the LAQ appears, press and hold the missile launch button, right Alt plus space, until the launch is triggered.
Разрешен.
Splashed 1. Keep on station near the waypoint 1 while I outline the next step in our lesson. Attack on an actively jamming target. But before we begin, let's review some key background information. Enemy active jamming as means of radar countermeasures can significantly degrade our ability to determine the target range. However, angular tracking based on the angular parameters of a target remains viable. In such cases, the missile launch is still possible by manually inputting range data, either via AWACS support or by applying a specific kinematic estimation method. Press the space bar to continue. To track a jamming aircraft based on angular data, the pilot must position the TDC box over the center line of the vertically displayed jamming pattern and press and hold the lock-on button for 2-3 seconds. Important to say that in TWS mode, the TDC box goes over the center line automatically with the jamming aircraft designated as HP target. Nevertheless, the lock-on button should be depressed and held manually, even in this case. Press space bar to continue. After successful locking and transitioning to the angular tracking, and until the own radar illumination overrides the jamming, the pilot can set the target range by adjusting the vertical position of the range counter arrow with semicolon and dot. If AWACS support is available and the exact target range to the jamming aircraft has been reported, the pilot must set the arrow accordingly. If the range falls within the missile's DLZ, a LA launch authorization will be issued. Press the space bar to continue. When performing angular tracking on a jammer with no range information, one can use the kinematic range KR estimation method. To activate KR when you have no range but angle track, bank the aircraft 40-50 degrees and briefly press the TDC HUD, keyboard L button. The blinking KR symbols will appear on the left side of the HUD. Continue banking turn until the HUD diamond reaches the wingtip of your aircraft symbol. Then quickly bank in the opposite direction. Once the diamond reaches the opposite wingtip, bank back again. Repeat this process until the range is calculated and the contoured range arrow suddenly jumps along the scale to indicate the target's range. Typical indications are as follows. KR begins blinking once the TDC HUD is pressed. KR becomes steady after several banks left and right. The contour range arrow begins displaying the calculated range after about 12 seconds or more. Press the space bar to continue. Wait for AWACS report BRA on a target. Upon receipt, turn to the reported bearing and start closing with the target at 430-490 KIS. Align altitude with the target. In order to get the AWACS picture once more, call the AWACS section in the radio menu. Write Alt plus \. Set the radar mode selector to head on for better results.
Цель обнаружена. 036. Ударение 100 на 3000. Расходитесь.
The presence of AG symbols along the left side of the HUD indicates that the target has switched the jamming mode on. To get the jamming button display on, switch the radar ECCM AG off CAG switch to AG. Steer the aircraft so that the jamming button on the HUD is practically centered. In TWS mode, the TDC box will catch the center of the jamming and expand to 1.5 its normal size automatically. Press and hold the lock-on enter button for 2-3 seconds to initiate the angular tracking lock on the jammer source. In the event of lock break, press brake lock button, right Alt plus backspace, to reinitiate TDC placement over the jamming button. Continue closing on the target until radar illumination penetrates the jamming and the LAQ appears on HUD. Alternatively, you may input the target distance based on AVAX or determine the target range using the kinematic method.
Пятисотый, 129. Дайте курс на ближайшую цель.
129. 500. Цель обнаружена. 020. Удаление 50 на 3000. Сближайтесь.
Пятисотый, 129. Дайте курс на ближайшую цель.
129. 500. Цель обнаружена. 020. Удаление 30 на 3000. Сближайтесь.
Разрешен.
Note that launching missiles in pairs increase the hit probability, especially against the jamming targets. Set the launch mode switch to all position. Once LA authorization is indicated, press and hold launch trigger button, right Alt plus space, until both missiles are fired. Nicely done. Target destroyed. This lesson is now complete. You may continue engaging the remaining targets with AHR missiles while orbiting near waypoint 1 over the Krasnodar water reservoir. Practice target determination via radar visually or through AVAX VRA reports. When you are ready to exit, press escape to end the mission.
500. Цель рядом. нарушена. 217. Ударение 70. На 2500. Расходитесь. 129. 500. Цель обнаружена. 217. Ударение 60. На 1500. Расходитесь. 129. 500. Цель обнаружена. 226. Ударение 30. На 3500. Расходитесь. 129. 500. Цель обнаружена. 221. Ударение 80. На 3000. Сближайтесь. 129. 500. Цель обнаружена. 220. Ударение 80. На